Good evening and welcome to this special live town hall. Douglas County Cares, your small business grant program. My name is Dirk and I'll moderate tonight's call. Now to start off, we want to thank the Castle Pines, Castle Rock, Northwest Douglas County, and Parker Chambers of Commerce for their support of this conversation and of course our local business community. Your Douglas County Commissioners, Roger Partridge, Laura Thomas, and Abe Layton are with us live tonight, and they look forward to this community conversation. Also joining in is Katie Ryder, Planning Manager in the Douglas County Department of Community Development. If you've got a question that you would like to ask tonight, please press *3 on your phone keypad at any time to ask that question. And we know everyone has a lot of questions, and we'll get to those shortly. But first, we'll hear briefly from your commissioners. Commissioner Partridge, please get us started.
Thank you, Dirk, and welcome everyone. We, the commissioners, and our planning manager, Katie Ridey, are glad to be with you this evening to announce our business grant program through the use of the CARES funding. So hopefully we be able to give you a lot more information. We know there's usually a lot of questions regarding these programs. Hopefully they can be answered. But to give you a little background of the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act was passed by Congress and then signed by President Trump in March of this year. It was $150 billion that was provided to states. As we were not one of the 5 large counties that received funding automatically, through a executive order by Governor Polis, it provided $275 million to the other counties to be split up. And so that was one thing we have put forward, and we are bringing that CARES Act money to you tonight, to the business community, for those who have helped our county be where it's at, continue to be where it's at, but we know you've had many challenges throughout this. I also would like to thank the chambers, Castle Pines, Castle Rock, Highlands Ranch through the Northwest Douglas County, EDC, and the Parker Chambers, and then the Economic Development Councils of Castle Rock, Denver South, and the Northwest Douglas County EDC, who have been very supportive of this program. Thank you, Dirk.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Partridge. Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you, Dirk. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for calling in. I hope that you get great answers to all of your questions that can even help you better succeed with your businesses. Douglas County prides itself on being business friendly, and we hope that this is very helpful for you. I'd just like to talk a little bit about the CARES Act funding that Commissioner Partridge started talking about. The 5 most populous counties in Colorado, that's El Paso, Denver, Arapahoe, Jeffco, and Adams County, received direct funding from the federal government around the end of April. So if you heard other businesses getting funding more quickly from those counties, it's because they got their money in April. Douglas County had to apply for their money, and we applied for that on June 23rd, and we did that in partnership with the 5 municipalities in our county. We were notified on July 24th that our request and plan for that money had been accepted. The other counties got their money directly. For example, Adams County got $90 million. El Paso County got $127 million. Douglas County was given a per capita quota of funding, so we only received $30.1 million. We're using that to pay for PPE and other expenses that the county accrued, as well as contact tracing. But we have allocated this $2.5 million to be rolled out in 5 different tranches to help all of you be more successful and recover a little bit from the unexpected expenses that you had to quickly take care of to get your businesses open. Thank you, Dirk, for the opportunity to explain a little bit about the funding and why it's taken longer for Douglas County to roll this funding out to our partners.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Thomas. Let's hear from Commissioner Layton now. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Dirk, and thank you, fellow commissioners, for those wise and insightful comments. I just wanted to share briefly, first and foremost, that tonight we're going to be focusing on answering your questions about the Small Business Grant Program. So we're looking forward to seeing all those questions asked and answered, but wanted to step back and just speak directly to the business community that perhaps might be thinking, well, we would love to just be open. We realize that there are 11 total cases of active hospitalization with COVID-19 in Douglas County as of today. Why not just open up Douglas County and get our businesses open? And I want to let you know that I'm really proud of my colleagues, Commissioner Thomas and Commissioner Partridge, because that really was our philosophy, was to start with opportunities to get businesses open safely in partnership with their industry groups and the Tri-County Health Department. So we actually were able to successfully achieve 13 variances in partnership with those aforementioned groups in order to get businesses open. So everything from retail gyms, restaurants, churches, and we're really thankful for the opportunity that those Douglas County businesses and entities had to open. But now we're focusing on allocation of those federal CARES Act dollars. And so again, providing an opportunity and a mechanism for small businesses to access those funds for appropriate measures is also a priority for us. And it's one way that Douglas County is going to use CARES Act funds in terms of the coordination with the Colorado Department of Local Affairs, otherwise known as DOLA. And that allows a reimbursement of expenses for local small businesses incurred and adjusted as they adapt to the public health restrictions. So that's just one of many focused uses eligible for reimbursement through the CARES Act funds, according to DOLA. And I just wanted to let you know you can see other proposed uses by visiting douglas.co.us/CARES-Act, where you will find a link to proposed expenditures in our budget. Thank you, Dirk.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Layden. I appreciate that, sir. Sorry to step on you. As a side note, we are here to talk about the Small Business Grant Program with you and answer your questions tonight. So if you would like to ask a question, simply press *3 on your telephone keypad, and that'll get you into the question queue to ask your question live tonight. And now, let's go ahead and hear from Katie Ryder, who will give you a brief overview of what to expect when you apply for a small business grant from this program, and then we'll start to take those questions. Katie?
Hi, thank you. So what you'll want to do is visit the county's website at douglas.co.us and search for Small Business Grant. From there, you'll see a link for an online application, and you'll be asked to submit proof of payment for any costs you may have incurred to adjust to the public health orders. You'll be asked to submit a certificate of taxes paid for any applicable county property taxes, your Secretary of State business ID number, and a W-9. You'll also be asked to provide a brief explanation as to how your business was impacted by COVID-19. And then after you submit your application, you will receive an email verification. And all applications will be reviewed in the order they're received. Awards will be processed after September 15th, which is when the application closes. And it could take up to 30 days to process any reimbursements. Staff will be in contact with business owners to arrange for fund disbursements.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ryder. So now it's time to start the question and answer period of this call. Again, if you have a question you would like to ask, just press *3 on your telephone keypad, and that will get you into our question queue. Or if you're listening to this call through our website at douglas.co.us/town hall, you can send your question online, giving us your name and your question. So let's go ahead and get to our first caller. We've got Margaret joining us now on the line.
Are churches eligible for the grant money?
That's a great question. So this is Katie Ryder, and this is for for-profit businesses that would have a business idea with the Secretary of State. If that church is a nonprofit, there may be other fund sources that would be available to you.
Through the same program or through a different program, Katie?
Most likely other programs.
Okay.
All right, Margaret, thank you very much for that question. So we've got an online question now, and this one comes from Ben. So this money is for reimbursement, not just for grant of funds available for any Douglas County business?
So this grant does apply to any business located in Douglas County, in unincorporated Douglas County, or within the municipalities themselves. So it applies to all businesses in the county.
Okay, so if I could dissect this question a little deeper with you. The opening part of the question was, so this money is for reimbursement, is what he asked as the initial part of the question.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. And so, yes, this grant is meant to reimburse for expenses already incurred by business owners to adjust to the COVID-19 public health orders or any other standards that they may have need to meet to remain open. And it does apply to businesses that are 100 employees or less and located in Douglas County.
Thank you for that clarification. And let's go back to the phone. We've got Gary joining us now. Gary, welcome to the call. Go ahead with your question, please.
Yeah, hi, Ms. Ryder. If you could, I have a two-part question. Can you please restate what forms you needed to complete? You said W-9 and some other things. And then secondly, on the news, they had a different website for the small business loan called Energize Colorado. Is that the same as the CARES Act small business grant that you're describing, or is that the home site or something?
So I'm going to take that second question first. So that grant that you just described is from the state of Colorado, and it's a different grant from what we're discussing tonight. It is offered by Energize Colorado, and you can go find out more information for that grant online at energizecolorado.com. But that is a separate grant source. The documents that you should be prepared with when you are applying is your proof of payment for any costs that you have incurred to address the public health orders, a certificate of taxes paid for any applicable county taxes, your Secretary of State business ID number, and your W-9. And then you'll also want to be prepared to write a brief statement as to how your business has been impacted by the COVID-19 public health orders.
Thank you very much for that answer. And again, as a reminder, we want to hear from as many of you as possible tonight. So if you have a question you want to ask, please press *3 on your telephone if you're listening to this conversation through your telephone, or if you're listening to this dialogue through the website at douglas.co.us/town hall, you could submit your question online. So again, if you're listening on your telephone, please press *3 to enter the question queue, or please submit your question through the web portal. We're going back to the phone now. We've got Jason joining us from Sedalia. Jason, welcome to the call. Go ahead with your question.
Thanks, County Commissioners. Yes, County Commissioners, I had a question in regards to what I've seen with the CARES Act in Centennial and Greenwood Village. Both counties did start with a very similar proposal in terms of the PPE, the additional expenses incurred by businesses for COVID. Would there be any consideration like Greenwood Village and Centennial to include payroll?
And I can take that question. This is the type of feedback that we're taking right now to understand if additional funding applications are opened, application windows are open. Is that an opportunity for us to reassess potential grant opportunities? Right now, this grant is focusing on reimbursement for specific PPE investments or other adjustments a business may have to make to remain open as a result of the public health orders. But we are taking that type of feedback, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I was just sent a question that was sent through Facebook, yet another way to contact us. So this online question comes from Amy. And Amy asks, how do the grants get approved? Is there a committee?
Thank you for that question. And so staff is processing the applications internally. and then we will work through that review process and make sure that we're meeting the needs of our county commissioners, and we're meeting the intent of this program, and we're working with DOLA to ensure that we're meeting the requirements of the CARES funds. So staff is working through that process.
Thank you. Another online question. This one was submitted by Mina, and the question is as follows. Does this funding give any room for the year or only past expenses, as we're going to add keyless check-in, but this is in the process? So again, does this funding give any room for the year or only past expenses, because we're going to add keyless check-in, but this is in the process?
Thank you for that question. And so this program is focused on costs that are already incurred. And so you would need to invest in that improvement in a timely enough manner to apply by September 15th. At this point in time, where it's not clear if additional application windows will be open. And so I do encourage you, if you have any other expenses that you feel would qualify, or if you invest in that improvement in a timely enough manner, to submit an application by September 15th.
So another question from online. James asks, are self-employed people eligible?
And so that business owner would need to show proof of a business ID with the Secretary of State. And so if that is the case in a W-9, then it's a for-profit business located in Douglas County. They should consider applying, and we'll fully assess the application at that time as well.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and move online, or I'm sorry, to a live call from online. And we've got Mary Kay joining us on the line. Welcome to the call. Go ahead with your question, please.
Okay, thank you. I submitted my application last night, but listening to you, I believe I have at least 2 deficits. One of them is I did not include my certificate of taxes paid. And can you tell me, is that this year, or what is the time frame for the taxes paid? And is it like federal taxes, state taxes, what taxes? And
So
the other thing is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I'll answer your first question quickly here. It is for Douglas County taxes up through the current date of this year. Any applicable county property taxes, that could either be real property or business personal property tax. That is the certificate of taxes paid we are looking for.
Okay, if I rent, I'm sorry, that if I rent my office, do I have any property taxes?
Most likely not.
Okay. The other thing is, I didn't see a place where it asks for a W-9. I certainly can supply a W-9, but how do I do that since I've already submitted my application?
And so that'll be a piece of documentation that staff will request once we contact you for any additional information if your grant application is awarded.
Thank you very much for that. As a reminder, if you've got a question that you would like to ask live on this call about the grants, please press *3 on your telephone keypad. Again, if you're listening to this call on your telephone and you have a question you would like to ask, simply press *3 on your telephone keypad. Or if you're listening to this conversation through the web portal, please submit your name and question through the portal. So here's another question that's come up. Can this grant be used for dental or orthodontics offices?
Yes, that's a great question. The intent of this grant is to apply for that type of business. Really, the requirement is that it has to be a for-profit business located in Douglas County with 100 employees or less.
Okay. Thank you for that answer. And again, could you provide the website so that people can start doing a little more research on this grant?
Absolutely. So it is douglas.co.us. And once you get to that website, please search for Small Business Grant. And there you'll see a list of all the eligible expenses that you could apply for grant funds for, and also all the information in terms of how you actually submit an application.
Perfect. Thank you very much for providing that. So going back to an online question, Reverend Eric asks, did I understand correctly there was $30.1 million allocated to Douglas County, and of that, $2.5 million is being made available for grant applications throughout the county?
That is correct. This is only one small portion of all the funds that are actually going to be going out into the community. And so $2.5 million for now has been put aside for the small business grant. And I know the commissioners have made a priority to get that fund, the rest of those funds out into the community in various ways, including investing in contact tracing, testing, PPE, and various other ways that are supporting the local economy to try to keep businesses open and people safe.
Thank you very much, Katie. Commissioners, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Dirk, this is Commissioner Thomas. I would like to add something.
Please.
So this money was also split with the 5 municipalities in our county. So Douglas County did not get the $30.1 million all to ourselves. So it's been shared with all the municipalities. However, any business in any part of Douglas County, if you are in Castle Pines, you can apply for this grant money. And it was used to pay for PPE that was sent to other people that needed it when this all first started. And like Katie talked about, we've already approved $3 million of this to go to Tri-County Health for additional testing and tracing. So there's lots of requirements with this money. And we've started with $2.5 million for businesses. And we're looking at ways to even help some nonprofits. So we're spreading it out the best we can. But keep in mind that the big counties like Adams County got $90 million. And Douglas County, who's just slightly smaller than Adams County, only got $30 million. Thank you, Dirk.
Commissioner Thomas, maybe explain a little bit too that we are being reimbursed for these funds. We have to see the expense first, and then we submit it to DOLA, Department of Local Affairs, and then we are reimbursed for those funds.
Well, you just did a good job of doing that, Commissioner Partridge.
Okay, very well.
Anything else on this topic?
I don't.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. And just for everyone on the call with us, we're approaching about the halfway mark in this live town hall. And at this time, we'd love to do a quick poll question. This is where you have an opportunity to chime in. So if you're on your phone, just choose the corresponding telephone number of the answer. I'll ask the question. I'll go through the answers that you can submit, and I'll do this twice. So the poll question is, have you participated in previous Douglas County live town hall events? If you have not, and this is your first time participating, please press 1. If you have participated in previous town hall events, press 2. And if you've participated in a number of our Douglas County live town hall events, please press 3. So again, the poll question, have you participated in previous Douglas County live town hall events? Press 1 if your answer is no, this is my first time participating in these events. Press 2 if the answer is yes, I've participated in one or a couple previously. Press 3 if the answer is yes, I've participated in several events. So I see the poll is moving upwards. Thank you very much for your participation in the poll and your responses. Again, to ask a question, simply press *3 on your telephone to get to our question queue for being live on the call. And if you're listening through the website, you can submit your name and question below the streaming player. So again, press *3 if you've got a question you'd like to ask live on the call, or enter your name and question below the streaming player on the website. We've got another question that's appeared. And is this grant the same as the just announced Gaap Fund grant that's coming out August 31st?
Yes, thank you. And so the other grant that has been announced recently that's coming out today is the Energize Colorado Gaap Fund. And that is a separate grant opportunity for many businesses. So please go visit energizecolorado.com/Gaap Fund.
Perfect. Moving back to a question on the phone, we've got Teresa joining us from Lone Tree. Teresa, welcome to the call. Go ahead with your question now.
Thank you. I'm still a little bit confused about how the applications will be approved. Assuming that all people or all the persons that submit their application have substantial documents, they follow the W-9, the proof of payment, the taxes paid, and a brief statement, how will the determination be made on who will receive the funds?
Thank you for that question. And so we have tried to keep the application very simple and very black and white, so there's not much question as to whether or not you qualify for the funds. And that's why we are reviewing these applications as first come, first served basis, because I imagine many of these applications will qualify for funding. And then once the funds are dispersed, any remaining funds will continue to fund additional applications as we move forward. So we really have tried to take out any subjectivity of these applications by keeping it very simple in terms of tangible investments that you have made to make sure that you can remain in business in response to the public health orders. And if you have proof of payment for those expenses and you qualify as a business in Douglas County, your application should be approved and funding should be coming your way.
Thank you, Ms. Ryder. Going on, we've got back to the phones. We've got Andrea joining us now. Welcome to the call. What is your question, please?
If I have gotten a PPE loan from the federal government, can I reapply for this?
And so this grant is meant to be only for reimbursement of costs that you've already incurred for investment in personal protective equipment or other infrastructure changes you've had to do to your business. If you've accepted a loan for paycheck protection, that is a separate grant fund. You would still qualify for this grant specifically for the type of reimbursements that we are allocating it for. Now, if you've received funding for the same investments in PPE or physical infrastructure, then you will not qualify for this grant. We cannot do two forms of reimbursement for the same expense per business.
Thank you for clarifying that in your response, Ms. Ryder. Now, as a reminder, to ask a question, you just simply need to press *3 on your telephone keypad, or you can send your question through the website if you're listening to this conversation at douglas.co.us/town hall, or as we also learned earlier, through Facebook. So now let's go ahead and get back to the questions. And we've got Skylar from Littleton joining us now live on the call. Skylar, welcome. What is your question?
Yeah, hi. From what I'm hearing, most of this grant is geared towards infrastructure for physical spaces. I'm in the event production area, and I'm just curious if any of this grant money would be available for the restructuring of my business.
Potentially, yes. I would recommend that you go to the website and look at our list of eligible expenses, but it is to reimburse businesses for investments made to enable social distancing and any personal protective equipment that you may have installed to keep people safe, touchless entryways, that kind of technology. So please go visit the website at douglas.co.us and search for small business grant and look at the list of eligible expenses. And any additional follow-up questions, please feel free to email us at dcbusinessgrants@douglas.co.us.
All right, we've got a question. I'm just trying to make sure I've got it all here online. And so Mina asks, if you've already applied, can I amend the application?
And so the question is, would that be considered a complete application? And so we are looking at.
I think she's more concerned if she's either given an incorrect answer after learning more on this call, or that she didn't supply an answer. Is there a way to go back into her application and amend it?
The best thing for her to do is email us at dcbusinessgrants@douglas.co.us, and we will help her address whatever her question may be to make sure that her application is considered complete.
Perfect. And she goes on to ask, will there be more opportunities for more funding to assist?
At this point in time, this is the only application window that we have identified. We will continue to work with the county commissioners once we understand how much of the $2.5 million that we've allocated towards this effort has been spent.
Thank you for that clarification there, Katie. Now, as a reminder, if your question isn't answered tonight, you can reach out to DC Business Grants at douglas.co.us, or you can also call 303-660-7460. So again, if we don't answer your question tonight, you can reach out at DC Business Grants at douglas.co.us, or you can call 303-660-7460. So I've got another online question. Bill asks, do these funds carry any tax liability to the business owner?
And so that is something that we would need to follow up on. I would recommend that he submit a question to DC Business Grants at douglas.co.us.
Okay, thank you. So we've got Ted with an online question. What do you recommend regarding receipts for PPE, protective equipment modifications, etc., that may not be available because these purchases were made online and months ago before this grant was known about?
Well, hopefully with any online purchases, you could go to that account and maybe download any information you could have from that date of purchase. But other than that, we do need some proof of purchase, either receipts, invoices, or orders from online orders, something that shows that you paid for that cost.
All right, moving back to a telephone call. We've got Lefty from Parker joining us. Hello and welcome to the call. What is your question?
I guess I have to explain before I ask my actual question. I'm a small business located in Parker, Colorado. I have under 100 employees, but I'm not retail. I'm not customer facing. And I believe my question's been answered. It doesn't sound like I can qualify for this because I haven't had to make any adjustments to allow for PPEs, et cetera. My situation is more, my company's down 30%, and it doesn't sound like this grant is for me. So,
and that might,
so my
that may be
question,
the case.
I believe is who. My question, I believe, is who determined that this was a reimbursement when there are some of us that really did not have to make those expenses to create a situation where it was safe for everybody to come in because we're a small business operating out of the house, but we're down.
And thank you, sir, for that feedback. And this is part of the feedback that we want to hear to understand if there's other funding needs that the county commissioners should consider moving forward. This grant does focus on reimbursement of very specific investments that businesses have had to make in response to the public health orders. You may want to consider looking at the Energize Colorado grant that is more focused on business interruption. And there's some other federal programs that have been established to help with that business interruption loss in revenue that you're experiencing.
Well, I think actually, since you just referenced it back, Ms. Ryder, it wouldn't be a bad idea. It kind of harkens back to that question that was asked earlier, and it seems like this is something a lot of people are looking for that information on. And the question was, is this grant the same as the just announced Gaap Fund grant that's coming out August 31st?
Yes, and this grant is different from that. and trying to fund different aspects of how businesses, many different businesses have been impacted during this time. And so we've tried to focus on just the physical improvements that some businesses have had to make to remain open. And then knowing that there's some other sources of funds at the federal and state level to help with that business interruption that other businesses may be experiencing as well.
And do I recall, did you have a web address for that earlier?
And that's it's Energize
the Gaap
Colorado.
program?
Yep. EnergizeColorado.com/Gaap Fund.
Okay, so energizecolorado.com/Gaap Fund?
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And looking here, we've already asked Bill's online question. Oh, I just overlooked Rosalind on the line with us. Rosalind, welcome to the call. What is your question from Parker?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead, please.
I think I have had my question answered. It had to do with the EnergizeColorado.com and then the other. So are Energize.com and the Gaap Fund grant two separate things, or are they all in the same package?
And so the Energize Colorado grant that we're talking about is known as the Gaap Fund. And so that is energizecolorado.com/Gaap Fund. And then the Douglas County grant is separate from that and focuses on investment in physical changes a business may have made to remain open, or investments in personal protective equipment to keep customers safe. And to see that grant, you go to douglas.co.us and search for small business grant.
Thank you for that information, Katie. Another question we've got here, and this one was submitted, Stan, I believe. Stan says, we're currently getting together a few quotes to improve our patio to be winter ready for seating outdoors. Would this expense be eligible for the grant?
And so that type of investment is one of the eligible funding opportunities for this grant. What we do need to look at, though, is that it has to be a cost that you've already incurred. And so you would need to make the investment in that improvement in a timely enough manner to submit an application prior to September 15th. So I would encourage you to look at what you've maybe already done to see if there's other costs that you have incurred that would qualify based on that list of qualifying expenses. And again, you can find that on our website at douglas.co.us by searching for small business grant. And please consider submitting an application on any other costs that you may have incurred. But if you do make that investment in a timely enough manner to submit an application prior to September 15th, please do so.
Perfect. So everyone listening on the call right now, what questions do you still have? To ask your question, you can press *3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue to ask it live on this call. Again, that's press *3 if you have a question you'd like to ask about the grant program. Of course, we've also received a number of online questions from people listening to this conversation through the website at douglas.co.us/town hall. So feel free to submit there as well. And moving on to another live caller, we've got Krista joining us from Highlands Ranch. Krista, welcome to the call. What is your question?
Hi, I was wondering, I invested in a lot of PPE to donate to first responders and senior care facilities, etc. I bought several face shields and other protective gear and donated it. Is there any way to get reimbursed on any piece of that?
Thank you very much for that question. This grant is focused on businesses that utilize that equipment to keep their business in operation and to remain open safely during these public health orders. So as amazing as that effort is that you did, I don't see it that qualifies currently under this grant.
Thank you, Katie. The next question, I live in Douglas County, but my business is in Jefferson County. Am I eligible?
Again, a great question. And unfortunately, no, the business needs to be located in Douglas County. I would encourage you to look for funding opportunities in the jurisdiction that you live in, or again, at the state level.
Very good. Thank you for that answer and clarification. If you have a question you'd like to ask live on this call, simply press *3 on your telephone keypad, and you'll be taken to the question queue, where we'll then bring your call live. And if you're on the web listening to this conversation, please just submit your question below the streaming player. Let's see here. The next question, reading from online. On the application, it mentioned that the CARES funding would cover any expenditures through December 31st, 2020. I have a restaurant and purchased a new point of sale machine that allows for contactless payment, online ordering, and self-ordering. I paid for all the equipment, which would be reimbursable under the guidelines, and also pay a monthly service fee. Would the monthly fee be reimbursable through December 2020?
Thank you. It's a great question. This program is meant to reimburse costs that have already been incurred prior to September 15th. If additional funding windows or application phases are open, I would encourage you to track those costs after September 15th and consider reapplying at that time. But other than that, it has to be for costs that were incurred prior to September 15th.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ryder. Well, going back to the phones, we've got a caller from Highlands Ranch, Rogelio. I apologize if I've butchered your name. Sir, welcome to the call. What is your question?
Thank you. Good evening. The name is Rogelio. Not to worry. Yes, I'm a mediator, a contract mediator with the state of Colorado State Courts. I service divorce mediation and business and civil mediation. With COVID-19, my business dropped about 90% because the courts have been closed. Although they started having opening, I did incur in cost having to contract Zoom video and audio conferencing, as well as having to pay my scheduler to try to keep business going. So I'm going into debt each time because there's not enough business income to maintain the business. The concern that I have is it seems that in part I can apply to the current grant on recovering cost and adapting to the changes with COVID, but on the other hand, I have to maintain business operations, and I don't know if then it would be better to apply to Energize Colorado. So I really don't know which one would cover both of my situations.
And so thank you, sir, for that question. I believe your investment in your technological improvements to remain as an operating business could apply to our grant opportunity. And so I would encourage you to take a look online to see if you feel that your technological investment would qualify. And if so, submit an application and staff will fully assess it to make sure it meets the intent of the grant program. Other than that, you may want to look at Energize Colorado's Gaap fund in terms of maybe some of the payroll expenses that you've experienced to keep your schedule on that payroll.
All right, moving on to an online question. And we've got Reverend Eric with the question of why were nonprofit businesses, including churches and or church house preschools, excluded from being available for this grant?
For that question. And so, yes, this initial grant fund that we're just now releasing is focused on for-profit businesses. And part of that is that there were some other grant funds that have become available through other means for nonprofits. But I know that the county commissioners have a great interest in what they can do for nonprofits. And I may ask them if they want to add anything more to that.
Hey, Katie, this is Abe, and if I may, I appreciate the question, and I know my fellow commissioners join me in the perspective that we absolutely and deeply care about our nonprofits and certainly those in the faith community that are working through this very challenging last 6 months. Just today, we had a fairly significant public conversation around assistance for nonprofits through the CARES Act funding. And I'm pleased to say more good news to come. Certainly, we'll intend to have another town hall likely regarding this particular issue, but absolutely, nonprofits are on our hearts and minds, and we intend to be of assistance if we may be.
Here's another question that was submitted. Does this grant provide compensation for business interruption?
Yes, thank you for that question. And so again, this grant is focused on investment in PPE, technological improvements, or infrastructure improvements that a business may have made to remain open and operating during the COVID-19 public health orders. Business interruption grants are available again through maybe energizecolorado.com or through other federal programs.
So Penny writes in, I started my business last year, and despite COVID impacts, I have higher revenue this year than I did last year. Does this grant program require that I demonstrate a loss or reduced revenue compared to last year?
So this grant application does not require you to show that you've had a loss necessarily of revenue. It does require you to show that you've had an impact from COVID-19, either through being closed or having to readjust your business space to accommodate social distancing or other impacts from COVID-19 that I may not be able to think of right now. So if you feel like you may qualify, I encourage you to submit an application and it'll be fully assessed at that time.
All right, the next question submitted. I opened my outpatient physical therapy clinic on March 3rd, 2020. My business basically was at a standstill as I was unable to go out and market to doctors and providers. Since the lockdowns have been lifted, I've been able to increase my marketing efforts substantially, but it has definitely been slow. Other than just office rent and related office costs, I really haven't needed to increase my PPE extensively. I thought it would be worth asking to see if I'd qualify for anything.
Yes, I would definitely encourage you to visit the county's website at douglas.co.us and search for the small business grant. Take a look at the eligible criteria for what could be funded through this grant to see if there's anything else that you did invest in. Marketing materials themselves do not qualify, but COVID-related signage and other infrastructure needs do qualify. So I would encourage you to go take a look at that list to see if there is anything that you have invested in since March that you feel you could get reimbursed for.
Ms. Ryder and Board of County Commissioners, definitely want to thank you for taking the time to answer all of the questions tonight and for everyone who's joined us. Katie, can you remind participants one more time how they can contact you for assistance or if they have questions?
Absolutely. So please email us at dcbusinessgrants@douglas.co.us, or you can even call us at 303-660-7460 and just ask to talk to somebody about the small business grant process.
That's great. Thank you very much. Now, before we conclude our live town hall, we'd like to give your Douglas County Commissioners a few moments for final comments. So we'll start with Commissioner Partridge. I'd like to hear from you first, sir.
First of all, I want to thank Katie Ryder and our planning department for an excellent job. She's very willing, engaged, informed. Katie, you did an excellent job. There's a lot of questions, no doubt, and certainly the ability for you to be answering those questions and then to provide the information online and through seeking other means was wonderful for those who are asking. So we want to thank everyone who is listening tonight, and hopefully your questions have been answered. I'm sure there's a few more. But you can see the commissioners, we have been very fortunate to be able to offer this program, even though it seems like it's a little later in the game. No doubt some municipalities, other counties were ahead, but this is the first chance we really had to be able to use these care funds dollars to provide to businesses. And we want to do that because businesses have been working very hard. Employees have just done a wonderful job. So we want to do everything we can to help you get further along, get you back to as near normal as possible. Thank you, Dirk.
Thank you, Commissioner Partridge. And Commissioner Layden.
Thank you, Dirk, and thank you to all of our citizens and folks in the small business community that reached out to us tonight with their questions. Hopefully you got a sense of how passionate our staff is, and certainly this Board of County Commissioners, to find the way back to normal and to a sense of how things were prior to this really interesting time. Certainly the small business community has been working very hard and linking arms in order to provide the same level of customer service and connection that it had in the past. And you're really to be commended for all of the hard work that you put in for the last 6 months. So we appreciate you. We thank you. We realize that in so many ways, there are also a lot of nonprofits that are also looking for opportunities to succeed moving forward. And I would just say, stay tuned.
Thank you. And Commissioner Thomas.
You know, it's important to thank the people on the back end of all of these calls. There's Carrie, there's Wendy, there's Dirk. There's so many people that work to make these calls successful. So I'd like to thank all of them, the people who called in to listen. You called in because you have a problem and you're hoping that this fund will help you. And we want you all to be successful. I'm absolutely amazed at how nimble our business community is. We found out at the end of June that our sales tax revenue was up 7.9% this year over last. And the only way that could have been successful is because of your nimbleness as businesses. So my hat is off to all of you for everything you did to get opened. And we're hoping that each and every one of you have receipts and what it needs to apply. Let me just end with, I hope you heard how willing Katie is to help you be successful on this process. So if you have any questions at all, send a question to the email that Katie gave you, and someone will get back with you because we want to help each and every one of you. Thank you, good night, and God bless to all of you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. And just as a side note for everyone listening on this call, we're getting a lot of questions on important topics, including schools tonight, that we didn't get to take to this call because of the actual focus and the import of this call. But we do want to hear and be able to answer those questions. And so we invite you to submit your questions on these other topics to douglas.co.us/Citizen Connect. So again, if you've got other questions that you wanted to ask tonight and we did not get to them because we're focused on the grant program, please submit those questions and we will answer you at douglas.co.us/Citizen Connect. And on behalf of Douglas County, Castle Pines, Castle Rock, Northwest Douglas County, and Parker Chambers of Commerce, thank you for sharing your time with us. We hope you'll join us again for future town halls. Be well, be blessed. Have a great night.